Hello, everyone. Welcome to our session today on diversity in international trade. My name is Peter Hawkins, and I am the very proud owner of Mellowhawk Logistics. We are a certified diverse company, and I am really excited about talking about diversity in this particular venue because we're not only talking about diverse markets, but we're also talking about government policies that support diversity in all its forms. And we are really honored to have the smartest person in the room, Dr. Ailish Campbell, who is the Chief Negotiator and the Chief Trade Commissioner and Assistant Deputy Minister for Global Affairs Canada. She has a PhD from Oxford University. She has an MSc from the London School of Economics, and she has a wealth of experience driving trade for Canada, negotiating trade, and putting forth a progressive agenda. And she has some comments now, so please take it away. We need volume. We're just having a small technical difficulty, and she'll be back on in just a second. How about now? No. So just while she's sorting that out, I am happy to share some other thoughts with you. She has been active both in the Doha round and in all negotiations that we have experienced with Canada, and has a really tough road to deal with. But throughout the entire thing, Ailish has been a really wonderful leader for both the goals that we all set forward, and also for the opportunities that Canada has. I think we have her on.
Peter, can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh man, Phew. The troubleshooting and adventures we've had online these last few weeks, and your group, your team, the folks that are gathered today are so important to me and so important to the Trade Commissioner Service. So I'm really glad that I didn't mess this up. And you may see some of my co-workers. I am working from home, and so I have an amazing team. My 9 and 10-year-old are with me, and so you might see folks wandering back and forth. They're also very good at making cups of tea and cupcakes. So this is the added benefit of working from home. The reason I'm so thrilled to be here is because it's really been a journey in the last 3 years since I took over the role of Chief Trade Commissioner. I can tell you our team has always had a passion for serving Canadian businesses. For those who don't know the Trade Commissioner Service, Peter, if I could just quickly outline the fact that our team is your team. We are 125 years old. We're celebrating our 125th anniversary this year. And our first Trade Commissioner was sent on a boat to Australia and reported that he really enjoyed the 3-month journey. And he highly recommended, making sure that when trade commissioners did international travel, that they took time to recover from their journeys. Well, it's certainly 125 years later. It's been the most unusual 3 months in our history since our founding, that's for sure. And we are doing our best to adapt. This is a human crisis, a health crisis, and first and foremost, putting the health and wellness of our team forward as our top priority. But what I've seen is an incredible amount of adaptation, and I hope we can talk about that and hear from your team and those who have joined us, how they're adapting to this health crisis, adapting their teams, and now adapting their international sales channels. So as I started out saying, we're passionate about serving Canadian businesses. We have offices across Canada. You can come in and meet us, whatever your home province or territory is. We either have an office there, or we have trade commissioners that will travel there, or now, meet us on WebEx, Zoom, Microsoft Teams. I could go on, click any number of platforms, the telephone. We have continued to do digital outcalls, and we've continued to do global sourcing in this time of pandemic. It's really been quite incredible. So in addition to our team in Canada that's ready to meet you, that's ready to meet LGBTQ and LGBTQ positive businesses, and ready to make introductions around supplier diversity, on just good old-fashioned international business development and product development, venture capital, an introduction to our startup work. We have a global team. Our team is in more than 160 offices around the world. And the secret sauce that some of your participants may or may not know about the Trade Commissioner Service is we are probably, with Global Affairs Canada, where we sit, the most diverse employer in the country, because we have about 30% of our staff overseas are Canadians, Canadian diplomats who are known as trade commissioners. It's an old name because we used to commission the trade, but now just think of us as your international business development specialists. And 70% of our team abroad are locals. So they're from the markets where you're working. So they have the local language, they have local networks, they know the regulation, the certification, the intellectual property, they know the local cultures, and they also have developed, as I say, really good adaptations for Canadian businesses going abroad, as well as those who are working to do, for example, joint ventures, foreign affiliates, find people to partner with to sell and develop their product. I want to talk about the CanExport Program, which provides actual money. You know, we are in a crisis. Companies, we can talk in the Q&A. Minister Ng, who's my boss, the Minister for Small Business, Export Promotion, and Trade, has been absolutely relentless and positive about our engagement with SMEs during this crisis, and particularly to make sure that they have access to the business funding that they need, the Canada Emergency Business Account, and our partnership, of course, as well with Export Development Canada on making sure financing is available, as well as insurance and bonding. You have our guarantee about a networked approach to find you the resources that you need. Come in and have a consultation with our team. Tell us more about the product that you're exporting. If you're pre-export, we will refer you to places that you can help develop your export plan. But, you know, during this crisis, it's been an all hands on deck perspective there. So getting businesses the credit they need has been essential, essential to surviving. And now what we want to do is see, how do we help businesses pivot during this time, digital outcalls, using e-commerce, using that CanExport tool. Used to be 4 months ago, we were hearing from businesses that, of course, were using it for their first trip, say to Mexico or to Japan, where we have free trade agreements. The Canada-US-Mexico agreement, the new NAFTA, comes into force July the 1st, and Deputy Prime Minister Freeland, Minister Champagne when he was the Minister of Trade, and now Minister Ng have been relentless in promoting, of course, access. A lot of your chamber members, of course, will have the United States as one of their first markets for export, like a lot of companies. So we have free trade agreements there, and with Mexico, our Canada-EU free trade deal, and also our free trade deals with Asia, the Comprehensive and Progressive Trans-Pacific Partnership, which means we have preferential market access to Japan, to Australia, to New Zealand, to Vietnam, and bilateral agreements with Korea. We're the only G7 country to have free trade agreements with all other G7 countries, but it doesn't stop there, as I've described with the Europe and Asia strategies. And we were seeing amazing businesses use CanExport funding to go to those markets for the first time. And now with this pivot, we're encouraging people, use the money for intellectual property advice, use it for marketing, use it to help onboard your marketing strategy and your IBD strategy, your international business development strategy online. Are you using Shopify to create that digital platform for your company? Or are you on, for example, various e-commerce websites? We have seen, for example, Asia and China come back online after having been shut down due to COVID. They are now back out in full force, able to move around Greater China, as are different areas of the world. For example, Europe, again, also coming back kind of online to more normal consumption patterns. But during this time, we've seen a huge transformation over to digital. And, how are companies using this digital moment, which is, it's stressful and demanding, but it's also adapting, right, to the new circumstances. And I think before we open it up to Q&A, and I'm checking, I have an amazing member of my team, Jordan, who created some reminders for me, some key messages, because I really do want to focus on the LGBTQ plus aspect of this. First of all, I want to commit to our respect and commitment to serving all Canadians. If anyone does not get the service that they deserve, Peter, I personally want to hear about it. And I know the ministers do too. But you'll find me on LinkedIn, Ailish Campbell. And the commitment can't be more real and deep. That doesn't mean, as we've seen with the Black Lives Matter conversations that have been going on in Toronto, as you know, for many years. This is a movement and work to combat institutional racism and prejudice. And like many of our Indigenous clients have shared with us, this doesn't go away anytime fast. It's something that we each have to deeply commit to, and I'm committed and we are committed. We've held, since I was the Chief Trade Commissioner, the first ever LGBTQ dedicated trade mission, which we were incredibly proud to serve, and we want to do more of them. We're committed, of course, to serve like every individual firm where they need to go. We've also been working on our set of services to women, in particular, the Business Women in International Trade program and our women entrepreneurship strategy, and our partnership. And I think this is the key. It's our partnership with the chambers that bring us constant advice, continuous innovation. We've had a partnership with the Canadian Council of Aboriginal Business to improve our set of services for Indigenous Canadians. And the same goes, as I say, for all of our diversity suppliers. But, again, just exporters.
Yes, exactly.
We layer on, your business people. That's kind of the starting point. But then I think it's really important to know that we recognize each individual business. Again, I just want to emphasize that we know that COVID has had a disproportionate effect on certain communities, and we know it's going to be even more important then to make sure that we're bringing out opportunities and addressing and helping our clients connect to new opportunities in new ways. And we don't pretend to have all the answers. I think it's also in a spirit of both opportunity and energy, but also humility, that we wanted to chat and say, please come and co-create and help us learn how we can best serve the LGBTQ plus community and all exporters and business people. So Peter, I'm passionate about a whole range of topics. Like I said, getting SMEs the credit that they need, the export support. We are focused on international business development advice, and whether that's in Canada or getting you connected digitally to one of our trade commissioners around the world. That's what we want to make happen, and we want that to lead to sales, and making sure that the network works for you. So let me pause there and see if we have questions. And Peter, please, over to you, because I'm in your hands.
So we do have lots of questions, but I want to make a quick comment. One of the things that people don't realize is that the Trade Commissioner service is really a free market entry service. It's free in that our taxes have paid for it.
That's right.
But the knowledge and abilities that they have locally is amazing. And everybody should be sure and realize that this is not a remote, rarefied place. These are actual people who understand the local market. So if you want to enter it, that's terrific. One thing I do want you to do is, could you just take a second and clarify? A lot of people tell me, oh, when I use CanExport, I need to have money too. Well, the fact is, they're a business and it's a matching program. So can you just talk very briefly about that for SMEs?
Yes. So the way CanExport is designed, you can apply for funding that unlocks essentially 50% of your project dollars. So you plan a project to a new market, or it could be to a subset of a market. So we've broken large countries like India, China, the United States in particular is broken up into regions. Mm-hmm. That was a piece of feedback we got from people. We are trying to create support so that you go somewhere you've never been before. Mm-hmm. But of course, markets in particularly large places like the US are so vastly different from one another. If you were selling in Miami or Philadelphia or New York, you may not have experience over on the West Coast. So we've broken the US up into different segments, into different regions. And the idea is, you have a project and 50% comes from the entrepreneur and 50% comes from us. It's a 50-50 cost sharing project. But again, having to adapt that and make sure that we're responding to the circumstances, we are changing our program qualifications so people can charge adaptations to e-commerce marketing, and various forms of consulting advice to be able to cost share that with the program.
Oh, terrific. That is definitely new. So that's wonderful. So now we have a couple of questions coming in, and one is a very interesting question asking about, with the change of the role of the United States in the world, what is Canada's role? How do you see Canada's role internationally? And I think that's beyond the wonderful Canada brand. Can you comment on that a little bit?
Sure. Well, it's really interesting because I'll be interested in your view on this, Peter, but I do like to celebrate the diversity of the United States. And, I think like many business people and people that work internationally, I get asked a lot by other people to explain the United States to them.
Oh, good luck.
Because we're like their cousin or their brother or their neighbor or their sister. And I just want to take a moment to celebrate the energy and dynamism of the United States and take note of the leaders there in the United States that are standing up for LGBTQ rights, and mayors and governors. And so when you say the U.S. role in the world, I think it's really important to highlight the American people and the energy and the demand. This is still 70% of our total trade, Peter, is with the United States. And so I want to recognize the challenges and then also say that Canada is totally committed. We will go anywhere and everywhere to make partnerships happen with people that share our values. And that includes diversity and inclusion and respect for individuals. So we've made, sometimes you get pushed out of your comfort zone. And let's be frank, that's a bad thing. But at the same time, it forces you to get more entrepreneurial. And so Canada's role is to come through this health crisis, to come through the COVID crisis without a single compromise on our values and commitments to LGBTQ people, to Canadians of all descriptions, frankly, immigrants, including, my family. It's to come through this crisis with our total commitment to climate change and improving our environment intact, and our commitment to the Truth and Reconciliation Committee. These are things that cannot be compromised, even though or while we are in a health crisis. So it's our job to keep going. I mean, I know that sounds kind of simplistic, but I really can say that it's never been a better time to, I think, brand your business with a Canadian emphasis, and it really is a differentiator, and we're seeing that translate into the bottom line. People will pay more for safety, they will pay more for quality, they will pay more for a secure supply chain. The number of entrepreneurs we're now seeing with QR codes that tell the story of their brand. People want narrative rich businesses, and it creates brand attachment. And you know what, Peter, it has the benefit in our case of being true.
Yes. 100%. We're in 65 markets around the world, and we went to 2 different LGBTQ plus trade missions, the one to Philadelphia and the one to Tampa. And in both interesting cases, the American market is still rich, it's still vibrant, it's still receptive. You can't believe the news cycle, totally. And so I just want to underline that I agree with you. The diverse American market is still a hugely valuable and perhaps still the most important and valuable market for Canadians. That said, there's a big other market untapped out there, and I do a lot of business in South America, and of course Mercosur and those negotiations are still ongoing, painful as they are, and I know there's another round happening, but I do want to stick with some of these questions too. One thing, if I could ask a question too about SMEs and trade agreements. I think a lot of, is there a place to find some sort of distilled summary how trade agreements apply directly to SMEs? Because we have access to so many markets now, but I think there's a misunderstanding or even just a fear of trying to understand how my $5 million business can actually access this stuff. Comments on that?
Yeah, I'm so glad you asked that question, Peter, because I think as a former long ago trade negotiator myself, you know, you can get really passionate about the technical aspects of it or the, you know, the legal aspects of it. And now the really important message is exactly what you said, that trade agreements are for SMEs. The trade agreements are for everyone. That tariff coming down isn't just for large companies. That tariff coming down is for you. It's for your business. And so I want to just highlight three things really quickly. The first is online. Don't take my word for it. Just go to something called tarifffinder.ca. We have digitized the ability for people to enter the market that they're interested in and their product, and then find out what the tariff rate is for their product in that market. And that's an attempt to sort of democratize and make, you know, digital all of our information around tariffs. And on July 1st, all of the new tariffs will be uploaded for the Canada-US-Mexico agreement as well. The second thing I want to highlight is, you know, the focus on the trade agreements on small business has been on things like making sure we've listened to small businesses that have wanted people to understand that they actually may import products, change them, adapt them, add value to them, and then export them again. And so trying to reduce friction at the border and addressing customs procedures, digitizing customs procedures, as well as reducing any tariffs on small import items has been the de minimis sort of factor has been part of this. And it's about transparency, making sure that small businesses are aware that the tools are there for them. And then the third thing is to access the World Trade Center or Trade Accelerator program in your community, which we've sponsored coast to coast to coast. Or go online and please book a meeting with one of our trade commissioners who can tell you for your specific business what kinds of preferential market access we can help facilitate.
I love trade accelerator programs. I'm a mentor with the Toronto Board of Trade and the Mississauga Board of Trade. Absolutely, and I go through them all the time. I'll tell you something. You just giving that little secret of tariff codes. Just let people know, I charge $180 per line. So if they can go to your site for free, they're saving money. Okay, go ahead and save money. I got other ways to charge you money. Don't worry. But just to let you know, that's a really cool thing. So they should take advantage of it. So I've just looked at some of these questions too, and there is something here about the Canadian Technology Accelerator. Could you comment on that for a moment, please?
Yeah. So Google it, Canadian Trade Accelerator. And the Canadian Technology Accelerator. And I always joke because the name CTA is kind of, it doesn't communicate as much of our value as I'd love to, which long and the short of it is it's a very high touch, very mentored, again, free set of services. And it's specifically to help startups who are growing their revenue, who have a business plan, access specific ecosystems. So a shorthand would be, for example, tech into Silicon Valley, or life sciences in Boston, clean technology in Colorado. But the exciting thing is we've opened them now in Tokyo, we're opening in Hong Kong, we're opening in India, we're opening in London, in Berlin, in Mexico. So we're creating a much deeper network, and it's to access tech ecosystems, venture capital ecosystem. Number one ask is keep that Canadian headquarters in Canada. Keep that Canadian intellectual property in Canada. Keep your hiring and your diversity hiring in Canada, and then use the CTA to help find you the capital. And I love what you said, Peter, about the mentorship. And our objective is to connect you with the global mentorship you need. But unlike 5 to 10 years ago, what's different is we don't want to hear American mentors or mentors in England say, oh, you've got to come to London, or you've got to come to Silicon Valley, or if you want to be a startup, you've got to come to New York City. I'm calling total you know what on that. You can grow your business. Toronto added more IT jobs than San Francisco and New York put together last year. We can do this, and we can do it from Canada, and it's our job to get you the introductions that you need.
Fantastic. And one thing about this COVID crisis, it has made it totally acceptable to have online communication, online sales calls, online introductory calls. So people should take advantage, because there's certainly, while I'm still a big promoter of shake the person's hand and touch them, but I still think that this is a great opportunity for people to access people they normally wouldn't. So we have 1 minute. So what would be the most important message that you want to get across from this call?
Our team is your team. Yeah, things are really challenging right now. But like you said, Peter, we've got to adapt. And I think the world needs more Canada. It needs more of our way of doing business. I like to tell people we're creating a sustainable version of capitalism. We're in it for the long haul, and we want people to make money, and we want businesses to be profitable. That's our job. But the way we do it, it really matters. And I think we've only seen that over the last 3 months, that the way we do business matters. So we're with you, and we want to be part of your team. The Trade Commission.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Folks, this has been Dr. Ailish Campbell, and she is the boss. So anyway, thank you so much. Thank you so much for talking to us.
Take
All
care.
the best. Take care now. Bye-bye.